Welcome to the EJO4Youth training video of Unit 4, the Planning Pathway. The planning pathway is focused on helping clients to get started in planning future tasks, as for example towards their participation in training, apprenticeships, job applications and interviews. The planning pathway is used to investigate a client's past, to establish their current position or into their future, to identify the next steps to take to achieve future life goals. The planning pathway includes a pack of around 200 symbols to cover various meanings and interpretations. The method also includes time cards, which feature different weekdays, months or numbers and can be adapted towards the client's time frame for the future steps. It is up to the client to decide whether they want to work on short-term, mid-term or long-term goals. The session starts with the practitioner presenting the materials and the steps after intervention. Afterwards, the client should identify a goal or an aspect they want to work on during this session. For example, I want to figure out the steps of becoming a professional chef. Once they identified the goal, the practitioner and client agree on the time frame of the plans for their future. This should be adapted towards the goal setting and decides whether the session uses the cards for the weekdays, numbered cards or monthly cards. Afterwards, the client should choose symbols to represent their next steps and place them on the cards of their planning pathway. The symbols represent steps and actions they want to take to achieve their goal. When the client decides the arrangement is done, the client presents it and explains the chosen symbols and their meaning. The practitioner actively listens and observes the client during this phase. Following the presentation, the practitioner can ask factual questions if anything was not understood or needs to be clarified about the presentation itself. Once all unclear points have been resolved, the practitioner shares their perception of the presentation and the arrangement, excluding all interpretations and personal opinions and remarks. This stage should only include actual observations made during the presentation about the client and their arrangement or work. After the perception, the practitioner shares their interpretation of the presentation and the client's symbols. During this phase, the client is asked to keep quiet and listen carefully. The practitioner can share thoughts and opinions during this stage. Once the practitioner shared their interpretation, the client is invited to state thoughts on the interpretation and whether they think the same or not, whether they have noticed something similar about themselves and more. In this stage, the counselor and the client can discuss the interpretation and presentation. As a last step, the client and counselor agree on specific actions adhering to the planning pathway, which the client agrees to implement and which should be followed up by the both of them in the agreed upon time frame.